Hi, welcome back to Millennium Workshop. Today I'm going to show you how I made this Cad Bane mask and helmet. So let's get into this. Alright, so down in the description I'm going to have a link to these files. I got them from Do3D. The file came with, the hat, the mask, the helmet, so the whole thing to get you started on this project. I will be doing a hat for this helmet. If you guys want to see it, let me know down in the comments. I was thinking about 3D printing it and then trying my hand at flocking for the first time. That'll make it look a little bit more like a boiled wool. So right off the bat, just getting all the supports off, I was really happy with how clean this printed, and this was printed on my Bamboo Lab P1S. It handled it beautifully. Now, when I printed this the first time, it was too small, so I got a 24-inch circumference head. I had to bump this project up 5 millimeters. I probably could have went up a couple more millimeters just to give me a little bit more room so I could add some nice padding and stuff like that into it. So if you are going to be making this build, I would definitely print out a sizing for it. So let me know what you guys had to scale yours up at. Now it's time for the fun part, which is sanding. I started out with a 220 grit sandpaper. You can start out with an 80 grit or a 120 if you want. With how smooth this printed right off the bat, I didn't think that I needed to go as aggressive on the first round of sanding. Now on the top there was some very aggressive layer lines, so I went with a U-pole glazing and spot putty. This stuff is so much better than Bondo. It goes on, dries faster than Bondo, and it's a little bit harder to sand. So I feel like you're not going to just sand it all away like you would Bondo. I mean, there's times where I've wet sanded Bondo and it just like completely came off and I had to just redo it because it just comes off way too easy. So get yourself some of this. I got it at O'Reilly Auto Parts. You can get it online, but let me know what your favorite smoothing technique is. Now on the face, we are going to be adding texture, so I'm only hitting the glazing and spot putty on a few spots. I'm not doing the whole face. I'm not worrying about really smoothing the whole thing perfectly. Now it's time for the first round of primer. U-pole makes an amazing sandable primer, so I strongly recommend using that. It really does a great job in filling up those layer lines. Plus, it dries faster than Rust-Oleum Filler Sandable Primer. So I strongly recommend picking some of this. You can get it at O'Reilly's as well. And then when it comes to the dome I want as smooth as humanly possible until we kind of dirty it up at the very end. So after you do about a couple coats of your filler sandable primer, I like to use about 600 grit and wet sand the whole thing. And typically 2 coats, maybe 3 coats is about all you need with this filler sandable primer. Now for the face, you guys all know I love doing tons of texture, so I'm using Rust-Oleum multi-texture. Get a nice coat on this. I think I did about 2 to 3 coats of this. Don't go too heavy right off the bat, really kind of just build this texture up, let it dry. It does dry really fast. Now before I go ahead and just paint this blue, it all comes down to base coat. So I'm doing an off-white base coat so that my blue is a little bit more bright and vibrant. Or like if you did like a black base coat, sometimes it can make your blues or your top coat just darker than what you were wanting. So sometimes it is better just to start out with a lighter base coat. Now if you watch my Baby Neil video, this is the same blue that I used from that video. I had some left over and I just feel like it is absolutely perfect when it comes to these blue creatures. So test out some blues before you just go gung-ho, and let me know what your favorite color blue is for your Cad Bane mask. Now I usually do a like black primer and then gloss it, but I decided to go with this performance black gloss just to try to kind of see how it would perform without having to clear coat it. And I was actually very surprised on how well this is. A lot of times like gloss paints and myself do not mix very well, so I didn't really have high hopes for this product, but I definitely recommend it. Their silvers are really great, and their white is really great. So if you want to try it out, the Performance Paint by Rust-Oleum is pretty good. A little bit expensive, but great. Eyes, I used it was called Flare, which is a red-orange window tint, and I just went over a clear visor that I cut. And once I got it installed and I flipped it around, I was like, this is absolutely perfect. They're not too orange, they're not too red, and depending on where the light hits it, I think it really just brings this project together. Now when it comes to the teeth, I did a couple different variants on it, and I forgot to video me painting the gums. I just diluted some red, got with white, and got a nice beautiful pink tone, and I did about 4 coats, so don't go too heavy. Now when it comes to the teeth, I'm using an ivory white, and I'm going to do about 3 to 4 coats, thin coats, and build that ivory up. It looks pretty heavy right here, but when it dries you'll notice that it's very thin and it just needs more coats, but it really brought it to life. Now this is where the magic happens. I'm using a light rust or an orange rust airbrush paint. And what I like to do is go heavy along the gums of the teeth. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to wet the brush and I'm going to get the tooth super wet. And then once you build up the water, you're going to go in and dry your paintbrush and then suck away the water that is on the teeth. It's going to leave, you know, a gross, you know, like Cad Bane has not brushed his teeth in a while. If you feel like that, you are spot on to what you're supposed to be doing. Now we're at 11 minutes and 45 seconds here, so if you have made it this far, I just want to say thank you. You are truly part of the workshop, and it means a lot to me that you're fully watching this video. Drop a comment down saying who your favorite Star Wars character is. And right here is my favorite part. So I'm using Duplicolor 1K clear, and I'm going to hit this with 1, maybe 2 coats of this clear coat. I want these teeth and gums to look wet and shiny. Now here's where it gets fun. So you could hand paint this, you could airbrush this. It is totally up to you. Find your favorite blue. Mix a little bit of black into it. Not a lot, just a little bit. And you're gonna just build up the shadows. So the wrinkles, you could also make maybe the scars or any deep crevices on the face. You're gonna make them pop more. So turn down your pressure. I'm running at about 15 psi. I am pretty watered down. I was having some issues right off the bat, but I was at 50 psi, so don't make that mistake. So I was drying the tip off and I was just having some issues, but that was user error. That's why here soon you're going to see a bunch of me shooting myself in the hand with paint. And right here. Yeah, now I'm happy with this. That's where I realized I needed to calm it down to about 15 psi so it didn't dry too fast. And I don't know about you, but I am pretty happy with how that turned out. Now it is time to put the teeth in. So all I am doing is just putting the teeth in. I'm using the normal super glue that I always use. It has a spray activator. But instead of just kind of globbing it on there from the bottle, I'm using a rubber tipped paintbrush. These things are absolutely awesome because actually once the glue has dried on that brush, you can just flake it off real easy. I also like to use these brushes for my glazing and spot putty, getting into like the nooks and crannies of everything. Now it's time to paint the respirator ports. I kind of wanted to do something that was a little realistic, but like kind of animated for these. So I went with a nice gunmetal gray. And then what I'm going to do is go in with like rub and buffs and really like brighten it up. So with the first rub and buff that I'm using black ebony, and kind of did one prior to kind of get a vibe of how I want to do this. But I'm going to take the black ebony first, and I'm going to go into the breather portion, this, you know, I don't know what I would call that, but this nice recessed area. Get that really black, You can wipe it away a little bit with a paper towel if you want, but I wouldn't worry about that because you're going to be going over and letting the silver rub and buff hit it. And when you do that, it's going to just kind of break it up like it's dirt, or it's, you know, possibly patinaed or tarnished. So I really thought it just really brought it together really well. Now in the respirators, I did add these giant 1-inch magnets so that they can magnetize on, which I was really happy about. But now, like, this helmet was too clean for me, so I'm just gonna lightly dry brush and create some scratches with the rub and buff. I made sure that the back plate was on during this because I didn't want to, you know, kind of weather part of it and then, you know, the other part just kind of looks a little different. Kind of want it uniformed. This is a great time where you can actually go in with like a 600 grit sandpaper and kind of just put some heavier scratches into places. But this is up to you. You could leave this perfectly clean if you want. But, you know, I look at it like in Star Wars, they live in these things. So they're going to be scratched. They're going to be dirty. So have fun with this and make something cool. And now it's time for the test fit. I am super excited for how this turned out. There are spots for magnets on the back, but what's really fun is just getting those respirators on with magnets. Alright, so if you made it through that entire video, I want to say thank you so much, and now you know how to make a Cad Bane helmet. Like and comment down below if you want to see me make the hat and finish out his tubes. So I guess I'll catch you on the next one.